Coming up next on Kids TV and Me, author, illustrator, and children's television enthusiast Joshua Stauffer will be talking to you today about this.
Yes! I can walk the tightrope!
More of a loose rope than a tight rope, if you ask me. Hello, what are you doing?
Hello, Pig. Hello, Arnold. We're playing at circuses. We've made a trapeze.
I swung upside down.
We did tightrope walking, and we haven't finished yet.
And I balanced a pole on my nose. That's clever.
Watch this, Pig. Whee!
Come on, you do something, Pig. Oh, no, I'm not clever like that. Oh, go on. No, I'd rather watch you.
Whee! Yes!
Hey!
Hello, everybody. Joshua Stauffer here, back with another episode of Kids TV and Me. It is episode 7, and today I'm recording this almost 1 week after the first episode, Reading Rainbow My America, was released. My first podcast episode has been on Substack and a few other podcast platforms, hopefully, for close to a week now. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I haven't really gotten a whole lot of feedback yet as far as ratings or reviews, but I did get a comment on YouTube. When we did My America, there was a scene where LeVar was talking about how certain objects are called different things in different parts of the United States. Like, for instance, sneakers are sometimes called gym shoes or tennis shoes or kicks, not to be confused with a cereal. And we got comments saying that gym shoes are also called trainers in England. Interesting. Whoever you are, thank you very much for writing. And speaking of England, today we're going to be talking about 3 episodes of my favorite British cartoon, Kipper the Dog, which aired on Nick Jr. back in 1999 and 2000. Today's Kipper episodes are The Gismo, Kipper's Circus, and The Lost Mug. So in the original list, these are episodes 25, 26, and 27. The Gismo and Kipper Circus both aired in the UK in December 98, and The Lost Mug aired in the UK in January 99. These 3 short stories were paired together into a half-hour program for Nick Jr. in the spring of 1999. So today's A episode is The Gismo, of course, and this is the second program that Mom recorded onto my VHS tape of Kipper episodes back in 2000. But the beginning of this episode will be somewhat new to me because when Mom recorded it, she turned on the VCR about, I think, 2 minutes late. So the intro and the title of the first episode are missing. However, in the credits, at the very end of each Nick Jr. program, they show the names of all 3 episodes along with the writers underneath. So at the end of the credits on this program, I was able to see that the A episode is in fact called The Gismo, so I can find that right now on YouTube. The Gismo was released on the Pools, Parks, and Picnics VHS DVD, and I think I have seen that once or twice, but I don't remember every detail about the first minute of this episode, so let me take a look at it again here. This is interesting. On the Fisher-Price YouTube channel, it's spelled Gismo. I should take a look at the Nick Jr. version and see if they changed it to Gizmo. So when we're done with all 3 of these, I'll pull out the VHS tape and look at the credit roll for that and see how the Gizmo is spelled. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin our analysis of Kipper the Dog, episode 25, The Gismo, written by James Mason. Alright, so the first thing that we see is Kipper making some funny faces in the mirror, trying to decide what to do today. Opens up a bottle of something. Looks like, is that going to be soap? I was thinking about possibly going to the park. Oh, I guess he's washing his face in the sink. because he's kind of ducking his head down there below the mirror's view and going, yeah, like that. He comes back up again, and he's got pink soap bubbles all over his head. I wonder how many people actually do that, just wash their hair in the sink as opposed to in a bathtub or shower. The only other place I've seen that before is in one of the Pee-wee Scouts books by Judy Delton. Which one was that? Oh yeah, Pee-wee Scouts Volume 32, Stage Frightened, that's what it was. It was the one where they had the talent show, and I think Tracy tried to give Molly this really crazy hairdo, and her hair stuck straight up with this gel or something in her hair, and then she had to. And Mary Beth helped Molly wash it out in the sink. There's a kind of a funny picture of that in that book. But yeah, I guess it would be kind of difficult to wash your hair in a bathtub. Might be a little easier to do it in a sink if you don't have a shower. That's probably how they used to do it in the old days. It's kind of funny though that Kipper is specifically washing his head when you think about it, he's got fur all over his body, not just his head. And so Kipper's kind of looking at himself in the mirror, seeing all the shampoo on his head. I guess he's kind of pretending that the shampoo is his curly hair or something. That's funny. And a little bit of it lands on his nose, and he kind of blows it off and laughs to himself. Still trying to think of ideas of something to do today. Should he ride his bike? Maybe. Well, spoiler alert, he doesn't ride his bike in this episode, but he will in the B episode. Ah, he's got shampoo on his right above his eyes, so he has some sudsy eyebrows now, going up and down. Then he kind of sculpts his shampoo into almost like a pointy volcano. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a little gnome hat or kind of like a lather mohawk. I remember Pepper Ann talking about making a lather mohawk in the shower one time. Pepper Ann is an old Disney Channel cartoon that I like. And Kipper's little shampoo point doesn't last very long, it just falls down into his face. And Kipper wipes it off and says, no. I don't know if he's saying no to the idea of riding his bike today, or just the silly thing he was doing with his shampoo. And then we cut to a slightly different angle, and Kipper kind of turns away from the mirror, and is this what I think it is? He takes a deep breath and blows the bubbles off his hand, and they float in the air. Yep. This is where my VHS recording starts. This is where Mom pressed record, and I have everything else from here on. Okay, I remember the rest now. Here we go. Yeah, because Kipper then says, I know. I wonder where that old blower thing got to. And then he walks away, I guess, to look for something. And the picture just dissolves to the next scene where Kipper's digging through his toy box trying to find something. I'm surprised they showed him walking away before that transition because he's still got soap on his head. I would think he'd want to rinse it off first, but in this next scene, he seems to be clean and dry, so I don't know, maybe he stepped away and then in between the transition, he remembered to go back and rinse off and then went to look for the thing. I don't know. Alright, so he's searching for something in his box, pulls out a rusty old toy truck, which seems to be made of metal because it kind of clanks when he sets it down. And he finds a trumpet and blows into it. So what are you looking for, Kipper? And he's found something. Apparently that's the Gismo. It's this yellow thing with red stripes. It almost looks like some kind of horn, but it's got a crank on the side. So now he's cranking it up, and he presses a red button, and air comes out. He points it to his face, and his ears flop all around. He says, wee! Now, when I was 3, the first time I watched this, well, actually, the first 15 or 20 times I watched it, I thought that was supposed to be a hairdryer, because it was the only object that I knew of that was kind of shaped like that and blew air, and my mom's hairdryer sounded a little bit like that. Of course, mom's didn't have that fancy-looking fin on the top, but I just assumed that maybe in the old days before they had electric hairdryers, they had ones that you had to, wind up with a crank, and then you just press the button and the air comes out. Plus, he just finished washing his hair, so it would make perfect sense that he would want to blow off with a hairdryer, or a fur dryer in this case. Now, Kipper thinks there might be some kind of soapy stuff inside that box. So he digs through it again and pulls something else out, but it's not soapy. It looks like a little blue pinwheel. Kipper cranks up the little blower thing again, turns it on, and the pinwheel spins really fast, but then it abruptly stops. Wait, did that thing break? Let me look at that again in slow motion. Well, it starts out with 5 pieces going around, like 5 points, like a star almost. No, I don't think it lost an entire piece. It just kind of crumbled together as it went around, and then just lost a few little fragments in the process. Must be some cheap plastic pinwheel from the dollar store. Unless it's a common thing with pinwheels like that, because Skipper says, "Why do these things always get stuck?" And he puts the pinwheel away and pulls out this thing that at first glance looks like a little toilet paper roll, but it must be some kind of little soap container because Skipper says, "Yes, found it." He shakes it and there's a little bit of something in there. And then he attaches it to the bottom of this gizmo. He cranks it up again, turns it on, and pink bubbles come out. Okay, so apparently it's not a hair dryer, it's a bubble blower. But when I was 3, I'd never seen a bubble blower like that before. I mean, I thought bubbles always had to be blown with your mouth. And for somehow I was still convinced that that was a hair dryer. I never thought to put any kind of bottle of soap solution into my mom's hair dryer because there was no place on the bottom to attach it with. So maybe Kipper's hair dryer was like a different kind that we didn't have at my house, but nope, not a hair dryer. It's a bubble blower. And so now Kipper's kind of dancing all around the room with it, blowing bubbles until the container is all out of the soapy solution. Then he looks up at the bubbles for a while and watches as they each pop. And the last one pops right above Kipper's basket with Sock Thing, Big Owl, and Rabbit inside, along with his blanket. He climbs into his bed and oh wow, I forgot about that part. He attaches Sock Thing to the end of the blower, turns it on, and air blows right into Sock Thing, kind of wiggles around in the air, all silly. Then he's just about to try again, and then he hears the doorbell ring. And then we see Tiger outside Kipper's door, ringing the bell, and it looks like he has some kind of blue hat on, and I believe he's holding a sailboat. So maybe he has a sailor hat. For a second there, I thought Tiger had a dog collar on, but no, that's the strap for his green binoculars. Okay. I was gonna say, I never noticed Kipper, Tiger, or Jake having dog collars on, but okay, it's the binocular strap. How did I miss those collars all these years? But nope, binoculars. Kipper answers the door. There's Tiger, and Tiger asks if Kipper would like to come to the pond with him so they could sail this boat. And I must say, Tiger, that's a very impressive hat you have there. It's got a little anchor on it and everything. And as Kipper and Tiger walk to the park together, they talk about whether or not the boat will float, and they comment on the amount of wind that they have that day. And it seems to be fairly breezy enough, so they should be able to get that boat afloat. It's not autumn, all the leaves are green, but there are a few leaves blown around. Then Tiger says, "See those branches waving, Kipper? It means there's a good breeze today." No, I don't see any branches waving around. The background picture of the trees is just a still painted image. There's no animation there aside from the leaves blown around. So, I don't see branches waving around, but apparently Tiger does. Little leaf lands on Kipper's nose and he blows it off. This is a perfect example right here of Kipper always, stopping to smell the roses, so to speak. No roses right here, obviously, but, stopping to take the time to enjoy the beauty of what's around you and just stop and notice the little things as you go. Kipper's not usually in as big of a hurry as Tiger is to go somewhere or do something. Kipper just likes to take things a little bit at a time and enjoy every little moment of it. I like that. Okay, so now they're at I think that's the duck pond. The duck pond is like a recurring setting throughout the show. It's located in the park. I don't see any ducks yet, though. Alright, Tiger's adjusting the sail to catch the wind and setting the little rudder underneath. The rudder's a little yellow piece on the back edge of the bottom of the boat. I believe the rudder is for the sailboat to sail by itself and come back around in a circle. Yeah, because Tiger then says, "It should steer itself back to us," as he sets it into the water. And it looks like it's floating just fine. Kipper and Tiger cheer, hooray! And yep, the sailboat comes back to the shore all in one piece. So now Kipper's going to give it a try. He sets the boat into the water. There it goes. He tried to set the rudder to send the sailboat straight across the pond because the pond's a big circle. So there it goes, going straight out into the middle, and uh-oh, it got stuck between two lily pads sitting close together. The boat is stuck. Tiger says, "I don't think the wind will blow it off." They used that exact same recording again in a different episode later. In the episode Buried Treasure, where they were chasing the balloon with the clue for the treasure hunt, and it got stuck into a tree and popped. They looked up there, and Tiger said again, "I don't think the wind will blow it off." They do that once in a while on this show. They take certain lines and they reuse the voice recordings whenever it's appropriate. I guess they didn't think that any of the little kids would notice, but even when I was 3, I had a photographic memory. I can remember what every single little voice recorded sounded like, and I can tell when they used the same one twice. Buried Treasure is another episode that I have on this tape. We'll talk about that one later on this year. So Tiger ran off to try to find a stick to hopefully poke the boat out of the lily pads. It's the longest one he can find, but apparently the stick is not long enough. He slaps it down into the water, I guess hoping to make waves to sort of shake the water and shake the boat out, but to no avail. He hands the stick to Kipper and he tries, but his results are no better. Tiger's kind of worried now, doesn't think he'll ever get his boat back again. But then, Kipper has an idea. He tells Tiger to stay there and wait, and he runs back to his house. Okay, now Tiger's going to use his not dog collar binoculars. And a frog just hopped out of the water, hopped onto the lily pad next to the boat, and the frog is now on the boat! The boat has a passenger! That's cute! I wonder if that's the same frog that was in the episode The Rainbow Puddle, the magic frog. Or it could also be that frog that Tiger raised. Like Tiger had this tadpole and thought it was a fish, and then the tadpole turned into a frog and just hopped away, and Tiger never saw it again. I wonder if this is that same frog. We all know if Tiger recognizes the frog or not, because Tiger's focused on the boat right now, and he says to the frog, "Go on!" hoping that maybe the frog will break the boat free of the lily pads and help it sail back. But nope, the frog just hops back into the water. That's kind of a funny face on that frog, too. Now we see a duck. I was gonna say, it doesn't look like there's any ducks in this duck pond today, but now we finally see one. I don't know, maybe they were off eating bread somewhere, or just going for a walk. So there's a duck in the duck pond, swimming over to the boat. Then the duck just sort of stops right in front of the boat and looks at it. Tiger says, "Go on, duck, push it!" We don't get to see if the duck pushes it or not, but apparently the duck doesn't do anything, because a split second later, Tiger looks disappointed again. He turns around and there's Kipper coming back. He's got his bubble blower Gismo and some string. He asks Tiger to hand him the stick, and then he ties the Gismo to the stick. That must be a pretty strong stick if it's gonna hold that little machine. Looks like a fairly thick one, so I don't think it'll break. I'd hate to see Kipper lose his Gismo too, but I think that's the right stick for it. Okay. It's a pretty hefty string too. It's more like a very thin rope. So he cranks it up, turns on the air, and it's blowing waves on the water. And Kipper holds the stick out very carefully, pointing to the boat, and the air pushes the boat straight through the lily pads, and the boat is free! Hooray! And Tiger congratulates him. "Well done, Kipper!" So the boat's sailing again, and Tiger is very cautiously washing it. Come on, don't get stuck again. It's kind of going around the lily pads. It's a little bit of a danger zone, but still doing okay. And Kipper's untying the Gismo from the stick, and he looks over and says, "Oh, careful, Tiger." And Tiger is reaching way out to grab the boat. Oh no! Tiger fell into the pond. And, well, at least he got the boat, and he's happy about that. Geez, the only thing Tiger cares about today is his boat. Usually, Tiger doesn't like getting wet, especially in the cold duck pond, but this time it was worth it for him. He's all wet, but he's smiling. Alright, we dissolve to the next scene. They're back home again. Tiger is wrapped in Kipper's blankets, sitting in his bed, and the sailboat is sitting right behind him in the bed. Tiger's got his gizmo. Now, Kipper has his gizmo one more time, cranks it up, turns it on, and blows air on Tiger to dry him off. Kipper, wouldn't it be a better idea to dry off Tiger without the blankets so he can get everything dry? I was gonna say maybe the air is just to warm Tiger up after falling into the cold pond, but no, that wouldn't work either because the bubble blower wouldn't have heat inside like a hairdryer. I don't know, maybe after the episode cuts off, Tiger will open up the blanket and let Kipper dry off the rest of him. Tiger seems to be enjoying it though. He's got a very fuzzy, furry smile blowing around. It's interesting how the line representing Tiger's smile, it's normally straight just like a regular smile, but here we can actually see the furry texture on the smile, just like a dog would normally have. Oh, look at that! The frog followed them home. He took a ride on the boat. So, I wonder now if that really was Tiger's tadpole, because he peeks out from behind the sail and smiles at Tiger. He's probably thinking, "Hey, Tiger, I'm still alive. Are you looking for me?" So maybe Tiger will have a pet frog after all. After being lost for however many episodes. The thing with the tadpole growing into a frog, that episode was called The Goldfish. That was episode 14, and the Gizmo is 25. So that's like over 10 episodes later. And the fact that Tiger was all wet from the pond, and then he went home and Kipper dried him off with his Gizmo, that further proves my first theory that it's supposed to be a hairdryer. But it turns out I was wrong all along. That is, in fact, a bubble blower, which can be used for many other things when you need a nice little breeze. Okie dokie. That was Kipper the dog, the Gizmo. I enjoyed that one. Very nice episode. Nice display of teamwork with Kipper and Tiger trying to get the boat back when it got stuck. It was a pretty simple one. Not a very complex story compared to the ones we did last month. I think the stories in the first half of the series were a little bit more basic, and then they kind of went into a lot more detail during the second half of the series. Still really good, though. It was fun to see Kipper playing around with that thing that I used to think was a hairdryer, but is in fact a bubble machine. And it was great that this seemingly simple fun toy managed to save the day, and save Tiger from another load of stress that he often has. Tiger tends to get pretty upset when things don't go his way. Alright, so that was the A episode of this program. Let's take a look now at the B episode. Oh, and before I forget, I would just like to say Happy Valentine's Day for those of you who are listening to this episode the day it comes out for the first time. And also, do you notice anything different about the audio quality all of a sudden? I just got a brand new microphone for Christmas. It's the middle of January, but my family just had a big Christmas party together, and my cousin gave me this new microphone. It runs on USB, so I don't have to charge it or plug it into the wall or anything, so that's really nice. And now, let's do some more Kipper. The next episode we're going to talk about today is Kipper's Circus. And this episode was written by George Terry. The first thing we see is a lovely tree with a rope tied to one of the branches. And at the very bottom of the rope, there's a stick tied to that. And here come Kipper and Tiger. Kipper's riding his bicycle, and Tiger is riding a tricycle. They're stopping in front of the tree. Kipper gets off and lays his bike down on the ground. Says, "Hey, look at that!" He sees the rope. And they have no idea who put it there. And we never really find out either. And so Kipper climbs up onto the stick on the bottom of the rope. He tries to swing on it for a few seconds, but then he falls off. Despite the fact that he says a little ow. He laughs right after that, so he's not hurt too bad. He's fine. Then he leaps up and tries again. This time he holds the rope with his hands a little higher, like up over his head almost. He's got his legs wrapped around the bottom, and he's swinging around pretty good now. Then Tiger gives him a little push, and there he is going back and forth, swinging around. And Kipper wants to whiz him around, which I guess means spin him around. Because in the episode Pig's Cousin, when they went to the park and did the swings, Pig put Arnold in the little swing and said, "Let's whiz him," and then they spun him around and around on the swing, so I guess whiz means spin around in the UK. But Tiger does not whiz Kipper around or spin him around. Instead, he climbs up on and tries to join Kipper, so the two are now swinging on this rope together, having a good time, with some really upbeat, happy music playing in the background.
Yes! Whee! Hey, this is great!
Let me have a go. Oh,
Tiger?
I'm getting on too.
Yay!
Hey!
And as they spin around, they get higher and higher and higher. The rope is like twisting around, getting tighter, I guess. And Kipper wants to go higher, but Tiger has a feeling something not so great's gonna happen. They slow to a stop, and then they start turning the other way, and they spin really fast, and they fall down to the ground. Tiger gets up and he says, "Whoa, everything is moving. Why is everything moving, Kipper?" I know exactly how Tiger feels. When I was little and I would get dizzy, I used to think that everything was moving too. I used to kind of watch as everything would sort of slowly slide back into place in my vision. It was really weird. Lots of kids feel like everything's moving when they get dizzy. I think it's because, like, their eyes move around a little bit, or maybe they're just something in their head moves around. I'm not sure how that works. But it's one of those situations where if you're upside down, according to what you see, it looks like everything around you is upside down, but it's really yourself that's upside down. I remember a funny scene from Little Bear, the one where they were trying to help Little Bear with his loose tooth get to fall out. They were all hanging upside down from the tree, and Doug said, "Everything's upside down." Little Bear said, "Everything's in the same place, Duck. You're upside down." Oh, this made me think of that. When I was a little kid, spinning around and getting dizzy always seemed like a much better idea before I did it than after. Like, I would see other kids doing that and think it looked like a lot of fun, and then I would do it for a while, and then afterwards I would feel really not good. Like, the feeling dizzy part afterwards was not one of my favorite things. In fact, I would often get this weird taste in my mouth if I spun around too much and got really dizzy. And Kipper and Tiger kind of stagger to their feet and try to regain their balance. And they lean on the tree and rest. And Kipper says, "Oh, that was great." Tiger says, "Yeah." So I guess they enjoyed that despite feeling dizzy afterwards. I'm glad they're happy. I don't know how I would have felt after spinning around like crazy like that. And falling off, too. Kipper and Tiger seem to have recovered a lot faster than I would have. I guess I should also mention that Tiger was pretty rude there, where he just jumped around to the rope while Kipper was swinging around on it, and Kipper didn't have a clue that he was going to do that. It's like, "Oof, Tiger!" Tiger said, "I'm getting on too." Tiger, don't you think you should have said that before you jumped on so that Kipper would know what you're doing? And it would be even nicer still if you would have asked Kipper nicely if you could join him. But fortunately, Kipper didn't seem to be overly bothered by that, and they both had a good time with that. And now we dissolve to the next scene, with Kipper and Tiger sitting under that same tree, I think. Yep, same tree with the rope. And they're sitting under the tree eating a picnic lunch. They've got some sandwiches there. Not sure what kind of sandwiches they are. It's not peanut butter and jelly, because I think I see something green in between, like lettuce. Oh, I think they're cheese sandwiches. I see some yellow slices in between. Maybe it's cheese and some veggies. Looks pretty good. Tiger says, "Perhaps I could be in a circus." And then he does a perfect forward roll. I was really good at that when I was a kid. Although I wouldn't recommend doing that right after you just ate. Although eating right after that swing incident was probably a good idea. I probably would have wanted to eat and drink a little something to get my body back to, what do you call it, equilibrium or something before I try to play anything else. But you should still digest a little bit first before you do any crazy tricks right away in real life. But anyway, that was a very good forward roll, Tiger. And he says, ta-da! Kipper says, that's easy, watch this. And then he does the same thing. Well, actually, is that the same thing? No, I just played it in slow motion. It's actually a cartwheel that Kipper did, not a forward roll. But it's a similar idea, though. It's kind of going around like that. Tiger says, that's good. Can you do this? And then Tiger tries to do a handstand, but boom, ow! He falls down. And Kipper decides to try, but he can't do it either. So Kipper asks Tiger if he could catch his ankles this time. Oh, this is crazy. Looking at this in slow motion. First, Kipper jumps and then tries to land on his hands so that Tiger could catch his ankles. But before Tiger has a chance to grab the ankles, Kipper just falls right on top of him. Oh no. And they flop back down to the ground. And then they call it quits for the handstands. Probably a good idea at this point, especially since he just ate. Then Kipper picks up 2 oranges that they had packed for their little picnic, and he tries juggling them. He juggles them for a little bit, but then he drops them. And he hands the oranges to Tiger. It turns out that Tiger is a lot better at juggling. He can even juggle with one hand. And now Kipper's going to try the rope swing again. Don't spin around too much right after lunch. Kipper asks Tiger again if he could whiz him around, and this time Tiger actually does. Very good, Tiger. You actually listened this time. So Tiger gave him a little bit of a push. And Kipper goes around and says, whoa, yes, whoa, no, stop it, Tiger. So Tiger stops pushing, and then Kipper actually climbs up the rope and up into the tree branch that it's hanging from. And he says he's got an idea now. I wonder what that's going to be. Before he says anything else, Tiger pulls the stick out from the bottom of the rope and then balances it on his nose. He says, ta-da! Actually, that's the 3rd time in a row that he said the same ta-da. I think they recycled that recording. He said ta-da when he did the forward roll. He said ta-da again when he was juggling the oranges. And he said ta-da a 3rd time when he was balancing the stick. And I think it's all the same recording. I guess they didn't expect kids that little who are watching this to notice the difference, but with the kind of sharp memory that I have, I notice these things. And the music gives us this little fanfare. We dissolve to the next scene, and hey, they made a swing out of the rope and the stick. How'd they do that, though? There was only 1 rope, wasn't there? It looks like they have 2 ropes going to the stick, with Kipper sitting in the middle. I was going to say, is that another rope sitting on the ground there? But that was the string that's the sandwiches were wrapped in. I think they had the sandwiches in wax paper and wrapped string around it, and they just left it lying on the ground after they ate. There's still a few sandwiches left. I wonder if they're going to save them for Pig and Arnold. We will see them later in this episode. Maybe Tiger had something to cut them with. Maybe keeps extra supplies in his tricycle. Who knows? I think there is a little basket on that trike, isn't there? Or Kipper's bike has a basket. I don't know if the tricycle that Tiger rides has any kind of storage compartment at all. But somehow or another, they turned the rope and the stick into a swing. It's a very short swing, very high up off the ground. And Kipper's just sitting up there, and Tiger says, like a circus announcer, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da! Kipper, the daring world-famous trapeze artist. I'm pretty sure he said daring. For a while I thought he said dearly or something, but I think it's daring. Would make sense, because that's what a trapeze artist does really dangerous and daring things. Is there an M in trapeze, or is it just trapeze? No, it's just trapeze. Okay, there's no M in trapeze. When I was a kid, I always thought it was trapeze. Because this is not the only Nick Jr. show that's had a theme with circuses and trapeze artists. In the Little Bear episode Grandfather's Attic, Grandfather Bear told Little Bear stories about his days in the circus and that he used to be a trapeze performer. And then they have a little imagination scene about how fun it would be to do that. And now they're doing something similar here on Kipper, except it's not a fantasy sequence. They're actually playing a little game for real with these ropes and the stick. So, what's Kipper gonna do? Whoa, for a split second it looks like Kipper's falling out of the swing, but he actually hooks his feet around the ropes. So now he's hanging on the swing by his feet. Then Kipper tells Tiger to grab his paws. So Tiger reaches up and holds Kipper's hands. And now Kipper's swinging back and forth, kind of swinging Tiger along with him. But Tiger's just barely touching the ground with his toes. And he ain't sure what's going to happen. He's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And Kipper says, hook your feet up over your arms. Tiger's like, what? I can't do that. But Kipper encourages him, and so Tiger gives it a try, lifts his feet up, and okay, he actually got himself up there, so he's literally right on top of Kipper. Their hands and feet are right next to each other, so Tiger has his feet hooked up on the ropes the same way Kipper's feet are, and they're both facing the same direction. They're not facing each other, so Tiger's just hanging up there on Kipper's back, and they're swinging, and Kipper says, I think you're supposed to let go now and fly somewhere. Tiger says, what? No thanks. What was Kipper thinking there? Like, where is Tiger gonna fly to without hurting himself? Fortunately, Tiger doesn't try that. Instead, he somehow maneuvers himself in a way that he's sitting on the rope like a regular swing with Kipper right underneath him. So Tiger's just sitting on the swing like normal with Kipper right underneath him. Kipper's feet wrapped around the rope, and Kipper's just hanging down there loose. Don't try that at home, kids. Unless you're a really good acrobat. And then we cut to the next scene. Kipper and Tiger are both down on the ground. How'd they get down from there? Like, how'd they get out of that position? I guess Tiger could just reach up and grab the branch and climb down the tree. I guess that wouldn't be too terribly hard. But what about Kipper? Would he somehow swing himself back up to the branch and climb down too? Or would he just let his feet loose and try to go down and have Tiger catch him? I'll bet that would have hurt if they had done it like that. But the way those two got down from there it remains a mystery. Alright, what are they going to do next? Kipper's tying the rope to the bottom of the tree, and oh, there's two trees. I wonder if one of those trees is the same one they were on before, or if those are two different ones. There's plenty of trees in the park, so it could be anywhere. Maybe they moved to a different spot. So the rope's tied between the two trees, and it seems fairly taut. And Tiger's trying the handstand again. Still can't quite get it right. And now we see Kipper trying something. When I was little, I didn't have a clue what he was doing. It just looks like he's walking along, tiptoeing with his arms hanging out. Without understanding the context of typical circus acts, I didn't know that what he's actually doing is he's trying to walk the tightrope. I had never seen pictures of a real circus before, so I didn't know what a tightrope was. And we don't actually see his feet on the rope at first. The picture just shows Kipper from his ankles up, so we can't really see what his feet are doing. Until Kipper finally says, yes, I can walk the tightrope. When I was 3, I always thought Kipper said, I can walk the type rope. I didn't hear the T at the end of tight. I thought he said type rope. Now you're probably wondering, why would I possibly think that Kipper is calling this thing a type rope? What is a type rope? Well, I didn't know what a type rope could be, aside from the fact that Kipper's calling it a type rope because that's the type of rope that it is. I don't know. Now we see what he's doing. The picture cuts to a different angle, and now we see the entire rope. Kipper's standing on it, but both he and the rope are on the ground. I mean, it's still tied to the trees about a foot or so in the air, but when Kipper stands on it, it weighs down the part that he's standing on, so he's not in the air as he's walking on it. Kind of makes you think of a rubber band stretching down. Tiger says, more of a loose rope than a tight rope if you ask me. When I was 3, I thought he said more like a loops rope, because the material of a rope kind of loops around, I assumed. But no, it's loose rope, not a tight rope. And Kipper and Tiger try a handstand once again. They both fall down, but instead of being frustrated with their failed attempts, they're laughing and having a good time. That's good. And now, here comes Pig and Arnold. And they all say hello, and Kipper and Tiger tell them about all the fun stuff they've been doing with the trapeze and swimming upside down and tightrope walking and balancing a pole on Tiger's nose. I guess in circuses they use some kind of metal pole for balancing on one's nose. That's what Tiger was doing earlier with that stick. And Kipper says that they're not finished yet. They've still got some more tricks to do. Now, Kipper is on his bicycle, which actually has a water bottle up front in the little basket thing. And he's doing wheelies. Tiger encourages Pig to try to do some kind of tricks of his own, but Pig says, No, I'm no good at that kind of stuff. I'll just sit and watch you. So Pig sits on the ground by one of the trees. I'm pretty sure that these are two different trees because they're much thinner than the thicker one that they were swinging from earlier. So Pig sits by the tree, and Arnold sits on the rope. And they're watching Kipper do his wheelies, spinning around on the bike. And like I said, the so-called tightrope is not very high. Arnold's just sitting on it, and his feet are still on the ground. And Tiger's doing wheelies too. And Arnold just pops back down on the ground. But he didn't have far to fall. He just sits down on the ground, and the rope kind of goes boing, just bounces back into place. Oh, now the stunts are really getting crazy. Tiger is on his tricycle, and Kipper is, Tiger's giving Kipper a piggyback ride. Kipper's sitting on Tiger's shoulders while Tiger's on the tricycle. Then they switch. Tiger is laying on his stomach on the bicycle seat and working the pedals with his hands, while Kipper stands on Tiger's back on 3 paws with his one hind leg up in the air. It makes me wonder how old these characters are. I mean, if they're only 4 or 5, realistically they couldn't do all of this stuff, could they? This is one of those don't try this at home kids kind of moments. These just get crazier and crazier now. Kipper's on the tricycle, holding Tiger's legs up, while Tiger's hands are on the handlebars. These are very difficult to describe. You'll have to look at these to see what I'm talking about, but they're really something else. What kind of stunt is next? Now we see Kipper facing forward in front of the handlebars. He doesn't have his feet on the pedals, though. He's holding the handlebars, from behind, while Tiger's, laying back on the seat behind him. Okay. Jiminy crickets, how are they doing that without falling? Now Kipper is just lying on the handlebars with his hands working the pedals, and Tiger's on top of him. There's nobody on the seat. All the weight is on the handlebars. How do you do that without the tricycle toppling over? How can you even move like that? Welcome to animation, folks. Okay, one more. This looks a little bit easier. Tiger's sitting on the tricycle like normal, working the pedals, and Kipper's just sitting on the handlebars in front of him. And all the while they're doing all these things, Arnold's just sitting there on the ground in front of the rope, sucking his thumb. And the way it's presented on the picture, they just keep going back and forth in different positions. It doesn't cut from one scene to another. Which wouldn't work in real time, because it would take quite a few seconds to change positions like that, I would think. And for whatever reason, Kipper thinks that Pig should give this a try. He says, Pig, it's your turn now. And Pig says, No, I'm not clever like that. Then Kipper comes up with an idea. He tells Pig to just simply sit on the tricycle and pedal, just like normal. And Pig finally kind of reluctantly agrees to do it. And so he gets onto the trike, and now Kipper and Tiger are kind of standing on each of Pig's legs, each holding one of Pig's arms, and Arnold even joins them. Arnold climbs up on Pig's head. Kipper says, Okay, Pig, pedal. And there they go! All 4 of them on the tricycle at once. Still looks kind of dangerous and crazy, but at least Pig's just riding like normal. But yeah, if we were to assume that the stuff that they are doing is okay, I think it's really wonderful the way they managed to include Pig in their game. Just letting Pig do whatever he can, and then the other 3 just kind of add to that to make it more interesting. I enjoyed that part.
Okay, Pig, pedal! Whee! Yeah!
Yeah!
Then we fade to black, and now we're heading into the final scene of this episode here. Our 4 friends are sitting under the big tree one more time, finishing their picnic lunch, and now they're eating the oranges that they had been juggling earlier. You see Kipper peeling it open and pulling the little slices out. And as they eat, they're talking to Pig, and Everyone's still a little bit disappointed that Pig doesn't know how to do any super fancy tricks. But eventually, Pig says, well, there is one thing I can do. And then, oh my goodness, Pig does a perfect handstand. Kipper and Tiger look at each other like, what? And then the final few frames, not only is Arnold standing on his head, he's like only standing on his head and one hand and still sucking his thumb while doing it. Holy cow. So Pig and Arnold are in an opposite situation as Kipper and Tiger. Like Kipper and Tiger can do all these crazy things on the trapeze with the ropes and the tricycle stunts, but they don't know how to stand on their head. But Pig and Arnold don't know how to do any of the other stuff, and they can do perfect handstands. Wowza. And that's it, folks. That's the end of Kipper's Circus. That was one of my favorite episodes of Kipper the Dog. A lot of crazy stuff happened in that episode. I mean, when I watched it, it didn't even occur to me whether or not I could do any of that stuff, but other kids watching this, I wonder how many of them watched that and then tried to hang from stuff and do wheelies on their tricycles and stuff. I hope none of them got too terribly hurt. Because we have no idea how old Kipper and Tiger are. I mean, Kipper's on a bicycle, but Tiger is still riding a tricycle. So does that mean, like, they're little kids, or are they older than that? I don't know. I will say this, though, the tightrope scene, that felt the most realistic out of anything on this episode. Because having a rope either on the ground or low to the ground, and having a little kid just try to walk along it and balance and keep his or her feet on it, that is a brilliant way to teach a small child how to walk the tightrope. That felt perfect for Nick Jr. The other stuff? I don't know. I mean, okay for a cartoon, I guess, but doesn't seem like something that kids could do in real life, unless they're extremely skilled and talented at that sort of thing. I guess it's probably worth mentioning that this episode is written by George Terry, and George Terry wrote some of the weirdest episodes of Kipper the Dog. In fact, this is one of his better ones. In addition to Kipper Circus, George Terry also wrote The Camping Trip, Space Invaders, The Magic Lamp, Arnold's Balloon Trip, Clouds, Water Water Everywhere, Skates, Cousins, and a couple others. And the ones that he did tend to be really over-the-top crazy. We'll discover a few more of those along the way as we continue examining some of my favorite Kipper episodes. And today we've got one more for you. Oh, but first, which store-bought video was Kipper Circus released on? Okay, Kipper Circus was released in 2002 on the Imagine That VHS and DVD. There's actually a lot of George Terry episodes in that one. Kipper Circus is one of them, The Magic Lamp is one, Arnold's Balloon Trip is one, because those episodes have a lot to do with, like, fantasy elements and make-believe and doing things that you wouldn't normally do in real life. Okay, so Kipper Circus was the B episode of this program. What is today's C episode? Today's C episode is The Lost Mug. And just like the Gismo, this episode was written by James Mason. And it was also released on the Pools, Parks, and Picnics VHS DVD. So this one ought to be good. Let's do this. First thing we see is Kipper's front door, and Pig and Arnold are arriving. Arnold is sitting in his stroller, and Pig is pushing him. First thing we hear is Pig saying, "You are a nuisance, Arnold. It's a horrible day to have to go out." That's how he pronounces Arnold. He calls him Audled. When I was a kid, I figured that meant, like, odd as in different, and old as in silly old thing. So what's Pig so annoyed about? Why is he calling Arnold a nuisance? Pig rings the doorbell and looks in the mail slot, and as he's got his face in the mail slot, the door suddenly opens, and there's Kipper. Kipper says hello to them and comments on how it's not a very nice day. It's really windy out, so I assume it's cold too. It's funny, it was actually windy out there today, the day I'm recording this. Stayed inside most of the day, didn't have to go to work, so that was good. Also pretty worn out from my big trip to Harrisburg yesterday. I made 3 videos, which you'll eventually see on my YouTube channel. I did Strawberry Square, Colonial Park Mall, and the Harrisburg Boscovs all in one day, so if I sound tired this evening, that's probably why. Anyway, Kipper asks Pig and Arnold if they want to come in, and Pig kind of wants to, but then he says, "No, I was actually wondering if you'd mind coming to the woods with us." And Kipper seems a little surprised that Pig would want to go to the woods on a cold, windy day today, like today. Kipper says, "Couldn't we do something indoors?" And Pig explains that Arnold has lost his trainer mug, which I guess is the British term for a sippy cup, because I remember what it looks like. We'll see it later. Pig says that Arnold dropped the mug in the woods. Well, they kind of interchange between woods and wood. Pig calls that area the wood instead of the woods sometimes. Kind of like the 100-acre wood from Winnie the Pooh. And Pig points to himself and says, "Guess who's got to find the stupid thing?" Whoa. That's a word that you rarely hear on Nick Jr. I don't know how it is by now, but back when I was a kid, this was like only one of 2 shows where I heard that word being used. I think Franklin might have said it once. I think he was sorting through his messy room and he said he tripped on something and he said stupid blocks. But yeah, it's really shocking to hear somebody use the word stupid in a show for kids that little. My goodness. And Pig's the only character who says that. None of the others do. So he asks Kipper if he could come help them find it. And Kipper looks at Arnold and says, "You lost your mug, Arnold. Haven't you got another one?" And apparently Arnold understands because he shakes his head no. Kipper says, "Well, we better go find it then." Now they're heading to the woods, which is in the back of the park, I assume. I've always liked hiking in the woods. I still do today. Pig says that Arnold lost the mug under a tree somewhere in the middle of the wood. Kipper says, "Which tree was it? There are hundreds." I wonder if that's a Winnie the Pooh reference. Hundreds of trees. 100-acre wood. And Pig remembers seeing a squirrel in that tree. And all the while, Pig doesn't, little Arnold doesn't seem upset about losing his mug. Like he's not stressed out or crying or anything. He's just sitting there in his stroller, contently sucking his thumb. Makes me wonder if he even cares that it's lost. Well, he might a little bit since he shook his head when Kipper asked him if he had another one. Then Kipper and Pig split up, leaving Arnold by himself in the middle of the trail sitting in his stroller. I'm not sure that's a good idea, because there's no, seatbelt or safety strap on that stroller. You don't want Arnold getting lost. As they're searching, Kipper calls out to Pig, "I can't see anything. What color is it?" And Pig says it's red. Okay, that's good to know. The 2 of them individually search around without much luck. And of course, Pig's really annoyed that he has to put up with this. He puts his hands on his hips and says, "Bother you, Arnold." That's a kind of an unusual way to use the words bother you. I mean, I've heard of the term bothering somebody, like to annoy someone or disturb someone, but Pig's using it almost like, how can I say this? Like, "Gosh darn you, Arnold," or something like that. It also reminds me of Judy Moody, how she often calls her little brother Stink and also calls her little brother her little bother. I guess calling somebody a bother means, like, if somebody drives you crazy a lot. Here's where I thought it was interesting when I was 3. Pig says, "Kipper!" And then we hear it echo, "Kipper!" When I was a little kid, I absolutely loved it when they did echoes like that on TV. Like if they were in the woods or in the mountains or in a cave or something, where a character would say something and then we hear it a second time, like kind of a, what's the terminology here? Like sort of an ambiance background kind of version of that sound. As a small child, I always thought echoes were really cool. It was part of the reasons why I liked Gymnasium so much, because it made sounds sound different, and also, like, a big grocery store or a Walmart or something with a high steel roof sounds very different than a building that has just a basic drop ceiling. Always thought echoes and hearing sounds being amplified like that in certain places was a lot of fun. So that element of this episode really stood out to me when I was young. Anyway, there's Arnold again, still sitting there in his stroller. Always wonder what that yellow thing is sitting underneath it. Like, is that supposed to be a baby blanket or something? I'm not sure. Arnold hears something bump to the ground in the background. He looks around, and then, yep, he gets up to go see what it is. So now, I mean, technically speaking, he's gonna be lost. I mean, he ain't gonna think he's lost, because he's just doing his own thing, but pretty soon Kipper and Pig aren't gonna know where Arnold is. So we got a problem here. Yeah, this is bad, especially since Kipper and Pig are having a hard enough time trying not to lose each other. They keep calling out to each other to see where they are. I mean, they can still hear each other, though, but they can't see each other. I mean, they wanted to split up anyway, so I guess they're alright. Kipper just walked right past Arnold's stroller and didn't even know that he was lost. Because the stroller's facing the other way, and Arnold would be so small that from that direction, Kipper wouldn't be able to tell if he was in there or not. Here comes Pig, and yep, he sees the empty stroller. And now he's worried about not only losing Arnold's mug, but also Arnold himself. He's got another person to call out for. Another pig in this case. The little pig. Now we see Arnold walking along the path, and he hears Pig calling him. He kind of stops and looks around for a second, and then just keeps on walking, still sucking on his thumb all the while. A little bit later, he comes to a big tree, and an acorn lands on his head. Arnold looks up, and there's a squirrel in the tree, eating some nuts, looks like acorns. Oh look, among the big pile of acorns on the ground, these acorn shells, there's Arnold's red mug. Okay, so there's the mug, but Arnold hasn't noticed it yet. He's still looking up at the squirrel, watching him eat nuts. Oh, that's what Arnold heard before. He heard the acorns landing with a bounce on his red plastic mug. Okay, and then one of them falls and actually knocks the mug over. Doesn't spill or anything. It is a sippy cup after all. Arnold finally sees it, then he picks it up. He shakes it. There's still something in it. It's either water or juice or something. I'm not sure what. Drinks a little bit, and oh, another nut falls on his head. Oh, that squirrel just looking down at Arnold with his arms crossed with a big smile on his face. This whole scene, from the time Arnold arrives at the tree up until this point, this is really weird. There is no music whatsoever. It's really, really quiet. Like, all we hear are a few birds singing, the munching of the squirrel eating the nuts, Arnold sucking his thumb, and the nuts falling onto the mug. An entire 30 seconds with no music and no dialogue is very long for a children's cartoon, actually. I mean, as much as I appreciate moments of silence, this is almost, a little bit creepy. Like, I remember turning up the sound on the TV, trying to see if there was any other sounds, but aside from a little tape stack, there was nothing else. Okay, now the music's starting again, and it's really pretty music, I must say. There's the squirrel hopping along, climbing down the tree. He just looks at Arnold and then hops away and looks back towards Arnold, so I guess the squirrel wants Arnold to follow him. I wonder where. So Arnold's carrying his mug, following the squirrel to some other tree, I guess. There's more nuts on the ground. The squirrel goes up the tree. It looks like they're playing peekaboo. The squirrel just goes from branch to branch, poking his head out, and Arnold looks back and forth. Squirrel up high along the branches hops over to another tree, then reaches inside a hole and pulls out some more nuts. I guess Arnold assumes that the squirrel is just going to be busy eating again, so he waves goodbye to the squirrel with the hand that's holding the mug, and Arnold walks away. Now, I must say, that whole minute was really beautiful. Going that long without any music or words and just relying entirely on the sound effects felt very different. A really interesting novelty for this type of show. And then the music that came right after that is one of my favorite music cues in the entire Kipper series. You want to hear it? Alright, I'll play some of it for you. There are few things in life that make me feel more nostalgic than hearing music from one of my favorite childhood TV shows. See, that's one of those tunes that I don't mind if it gets stuck in my head all day. I especially like the part where it goes doo 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 doo. I loved that when I was a kid, and I still like it today. Alright, let's be serious though. Kipper and Pig are still looking for Arnold, and Pig's just getting madder and madder. He keeps running into tree branches and crows, climbing over logs. And when that crow flew into his face, he said it again. He said, "Stupid bird." That reminds me of a really infamous episode of Caillou. I'm sorry, I don't have the name of the episode on top of my head, but it was the one where there was like an older kid or a teenager skateboarding in the park, and he kind of went past a flock of birds. They were kind of in his way, and they looked behind him and said, "Stupid birds." And Caillou saw this kid and thought he was cool, and he wanted to be cool like this older skateboard dude. And later on, he started using the word stupid because he'd heard this other kid using it, not knowing how bad of a word it really was. But that's a whole different story. I'm kind of debating on whether or not I want to talk about Caillou on this podcast. It's one of those shows that's far from perfect, but there were a lot of things in it that I liked when I was little. That'd be an interesting show to talk about because it'd be kind of fun to look back and discover the parts of it that were good and the parts that worked and that had a good impact on me, while also paying close attention to some of the things that might be a little bit dangerous as far as, like, good morals and stuff. I mean, we won't get into that this year. Like, maybe in a future season. Like, maybe next year we'll do Caillou. But anyway, back to Kipper. Pig is totally worn out. Still upset that Arnold lost the mug and got them into this mess. He says to himself, I'm completely lost and it's all Arnold's fault. It's not fair. And he sits down under a tree to take a rest. I also noticed that it doesn't sound overly windy in these woods. It's either a very quiet wind or the trees are shielding the wind away. Like, maybe it's less windy in the woods than it was in Kipper's front yard. Because I don't see a whole lot of leaves blowing around and I don't hear any wind either. So we got a few more seconds of silence, and then we see Kipper looking around and he wonders where Pig and Arnold are. He's actually not sure where he is either. He sits down to the tree and says, oh, they've probably gone home. But despite that, he figures he should probably keep looking for the mug anyway in case he finds it on the way out. Turns out that Kipper and Pig are sitting under the same tree, and Pig's asleep on the other side, and Kipper doesn't know it yet. And that's the same tree that Arnold was playing peekaboo with the squirrel at, because there's that same squirrel and he's eating another nut, and this time we actually see him finishing a nut and letting go of the shell, and down it goes, and it lands on Kipper's head. And he says, ow, and that gets Pig's attention. They're saying, Kipper? Pig? Is that you? Where are you? And they're kind of walking around the tree as they're trying to find each other. Classic situation. I've seen this before on another show. What was that? I think a couple different shows did this. Curious George did it one time. That's what it was. It was George and Hundley. They were at the park trying to find each other. It was the one about sounds. The one where they had to go out into the city because they were shampooing the rugs in the apartment building. But yeah, Kipper and George and Hundley did that same thing around the tree that Kipper and Pig are doing now. But it doesn't take long for them to find each other, and they don't crash into each other in the process. They just look in the correct direction, and there they are. Pig asks Kipper if he's seen Arnold. Kipper says, no, I thought he was with you. And so now they're gonna both start calling for Arnold together. Wow, Arnold actually found his way back to the stroller, so he never really did get lost at all. And what's he doing? For whatever reason, he's got acorns in his stroller. And his mug. I mean, okay, he's going to carry the mug in his stroller for whatever reason, but what's he doing with all the nuts? Oh, this is funny. We see little Arnold pushing his own stroller. I guess he hears Kipper and Pig calling him, so he's going to push the stroller over to where they are. A few seconds later, yay! Arnold found Kipper and Pig, and they found Arnold. Everyone's reunited once again. And they're also pleased to see that Arnold found his mug. I just noticed something now. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but if you look at the metal pipes that connect the wheels to the handlebars on the stroller, it almost looks like they make the letter A. Makes me think of A for Arnold. I wonder if that was on purpose or if it just kind of came out that way. Either way, it's kind of interesting. As Kipper's looking at Arnold's acorns, another one falls down from the tree and lands on Pig's head. Then they turn around and look up, and they see the squirrel. My mom loved this part. She liked how Kipper pronounced squirrel. He said, oh, look, a squirrel. Look, Arnold, a squirrel. My mom thought it was really funny the way Kipper called the squirrel a squirrel. Even though there's not really anything, technically square about the squirrel. And Pig can't see the squirrel. He's looking up in the tree trying to find it, and Kipper's trying to point the squirrel out to him. That's why they can't see it. The squirrel is climbing down the tree back to Arnold. Arnold takes an acorn from his stroller and lays it on the ground for the squirrel to pick up. The squirrel starts to eat it, but then he drops it and runs away when Kipper and Pig come back from the other side of the tree. And those two have given up on finding the squirrel and say, no, it's gone. Never mind. Let's go home then. And Kipper picks up Arnold and puts him back in his stroller, so Arnold's kind of sitting on the acorns that he loaded up in there. And so as Kipper is pushing Arnold home and Pig's walking with him, we see a bunch of acorns falling out of the stroller. I wonder if Arnold is leaving a trail of acorns so that the squirrel can follow him home. Huh. I guess little Arnold became friends with that little squirrel, and he wants the squirrel to come home and visit. And oh no, there goes the mug. I guess as Arnold was throwing acorns from his stroller out into the path for the squirrel to follow him, I don't know if he meant to do that or if he accidentally dropped his mug out there too. But in the final shot, we see the mug. I used to think that was a bush because the green grass is kind of dark there, but I think it's just grass on the ground. Yep, there's the mug just laying there surrounded by acorns. And 3 more shells, each accompanied by a note of piano music. Boom, boom, boom. Each land on the mug. So we don't see the squirrel following Arnold at all, so I don't know if the squirrel even got the message at all. And that's it? Yeah, okay. So, that was Kipper the Dog, The Lost Mug. I was gonna say it's a really good episode, but after that ending, I'm not so sure. So they went on that adventure in the woods. Everybody kind of got lost. Arnold went by himself and found his mug. He made friends with a squirrel. Then they eventually found each other. Then Arnold wanted the squirrel to follow him home by leaving a trail of nuts there. But I think everything kind of backfired in the end because not only did the squirrel not follow Arnold's nut trail, at least not right away, I don't know if he ever will, but Arnold's mug is gone again. Which could explain why in the tag sale or the jumble sale, Arnold has a different kind of mug. It's a brown one with, I think, a red stripe. Yep, it's a different mug, alright. Look at the jumble sale again. That mug is brown on the top, brown on the bottom, with red in the middle, and a lighter brown handle. So I guess after the episode ended, they realized that Arnold had lost his mug again, and I imagine Pig probably swore at him by that point. He was so mad. And then Pig was finally like, you know what, forget it. I'm not doing all that again. We're just gonna go buy a new one. So yeah, somewhat disappointing ending there, but other than that, The Lost Mug was a really good episode. Yeah, I really liked how, after all the excitement we had earlier with the sailboat at the pond and then all the fun circus acts, this sea episode was a little bit more calm and relaxing despite the stressful situation of being lost in the woods and everything. Like, that last one had a very chill, soothing vibe. It was a great way to end the program. Would have been better if we actually had a legit happy ending for that one, but it's one of those situations where I guess kids at home can just make up their own story and try to figure out what happens next. And of course we must remember that all that really matters is that the 3 main characters, Kipper, Pig, and Arnold, are all back together and they're all safe and sound. So that's good. Okay then, so ends our analysis of these 3 Kipper episodes, the Gismo, Kipper Circus, and the Lost Mug. I just checked the Nick Jr. version, and it actually was spelled Gismo, Gizmo. They didn't change it to Z for the Nick Jr. version. Trying to think, which of these 3 is my favorite? This is a tricky one, because they are all good. I liked the Gizmo, because the actual Gizmo is fun, and I liked how they used it to rescue Tiger's sailboat. That story of teamwork and problem solving was very well done. I enjoyed that. Kipper Circus was absolutely a fun episode. I don't know if there was really a whole lot of a lesson behind it. It was mostly just fun stuff with all the circus stunts. Although that part towards the end where they helped Pig come up with a way to join them in their circus game was really great. I'm glad they were able to include Pig in their tricycle act, with Pig just sitting on the seat and pedaling. Because even though Pig wasn't quite as extraordinarily talented at that sort of thing as Kipper and Tiger, they still managed to include him so that he could have a good time with them. And that was really wonderful. I like that too. The Lost Mug, like I said, beautiful music, beautifully animated with the woods scene. This is one of the few episodes of the series where we don't have entirely white backgrounds. There's actually a lot more green backgrounds in this one because they're in the woods. Because ordinarily, if they just showed them in the park or in the house or near the duck pond, it's usually just a plain white background, but they actually got a lot more creative with the backgrounds for this one. And those relaxing moments with Arnold just hanging out in the woods with his mug and playing with a squirrel was really nice, and the music that accompanied that scene was incredibly beautiful. The ending of The Lost Mug was nowhere near as bad as the ending of Arnold's Balloon Trip, because Arnold's Balloon Trip is my least favorite episode of the series. I won't give away the ending for that one just yet, but I will say that the ending of The Lost Mug is better than that one because, or at least it seemed better to me when I was 3. It seemed better because nobody really acknowledged the fact that anything was wrong at the very end. Nobody appeared to be upset at the very end. There was no sad music at the very end, aside from the 3 little notes with the nuts falling on the lost mug again. That final bit of music sounded a little bit more like a question mark than a disappointment. Because at the age of 3, I was not able to fully put together the entire context of the story. It wasn't until a couple years later when I noticed that this story was, incomplete in a way because the mug was gone again. The first couple of times I watched it, I just thought, that is what it is. That's how the story goes, and didn't really think as to why it was happening or why I should care. Back in the early days, I just liked the aesthetics of the show. The music, the pictures, the voices, just the overall atmosphere of everything that was on the screen coming through the speakers. And I still like all that too, but it's fun now looking back on this as an adult and actually trying to put together the messages that the show was trying to convey. As negative as Pig's attitude was, I guess it is pretty realistic with dealing with younger family members. They're not brothers. Arnold is Pig's baby cousin, but even with cousins, there are situations where a younger one might do something that is exasperating or makes more work for you, or it just puts you in a difficult situation. And I totally understand why Pig was kind of upset there. Not that he should have been. I wish he would have been a little bit more positive and optimistic, but it wasn't played in an overly exaggerated way. It seemed fairly realistic. And Kipper kind of held everybody together. He didn't really have a whole lot of fun in that adventure looking for Arnold's lost mug, but he seemed to take it fairly easy and just kind of go with the flow and hope for the best. Of course, out of the 3 of them, Arnold was the most peaceful one of all. He didn't care. He just went off and looked for the mug on his own and met the squirrel and had a good time. And Arnold didn't even get upset when he lost the mug the second time at the end. So I guess we can assume everything's okay there. And we do know that Arnold did get a new one. I don't know if you know this already, but obviously this episode aired a year or so before the Jumble Sale. So in the Jumble Sale, Arnold has a different mug because he lost his first one in the one we just talked about. Because these episodes that I'm examining here on the podcast are not in order. When Nick Jr. did reruns, they would always randomize them so that you always never know what you're going to see next. So I'm going to go through these in the order that they appear on the tape that Mom recorded for me. Which means that next month, the 3 Kipper episodes we will be talking about will be the next ones on this Scotch video cassette. And those episodes will be Pig's Shop, Water, Water Everywhere, and The Costume Party. We'll talk about those on the second Saturday of March. Next week, we're going to examine another episode of Apple TV's Frog and Toad animated series. This month's Frog and Toad episodes will be Ice Cream and A Lost Button. Ice Cream is the 3rd chapter of the book Frog and Toad All Year, and A Lost Button is the 3rd chapter of the book Frog and Toad Are Friends. So we'll have fun examining that next week. Until we meet again, this is Joshua Stauffer signing out. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. Kids TV and Me is a fan-made podcast and is not affiliated with any of the programs, production companies, or networks mentioned on the show. My primary goal of this podcast is to shine a spotlight on some of the underrated classics from my childhood, and to help you make informed decisions about your children's screen time. If you are enjoying this podcast, don't forget to leave a rating and a review. And if your podcast provider has a comment section, let me know your thoughts on the topics we've talked about today. To keep the conversation going, you can also leave me a message on Instagram at Joshua Stauffer Creations. And don't forget to check out my Substack page at joshuastauffer1.substack.com, where you can find more information on my other creative works, including my Little Joshua webcomics and my book, Meet Zoe Richards, which is available in paperback on Amazon. Remember to always pay close attention to what your children are watching, and as always, don't be childish, but stay childlike.
There you are, Arnold. Where have you been?
Hey, you found your mug. And what have you got here? Acorns?
Ow!
Oh, look, a squirrel. Look, Arnold, a squirrel.